Hey, what's up everyone? How's it going? My name is Jacob and I am a product designer based in San Francisco, California. And if you're watching this, then most likely you're a bootcamp graduate like myself. I graduated from Thinkful. I did the immersive program, which was a 6-month program. And I was really fortunate to graduate early because I had access to a lot of resources. And I wanted to make this to basically illustrate the path for upcoming designers who are entering this field or people who are currently in boot camps and things like that. I think it's very easy for boot camps to mislead their students and make them think they're going to find a job super easy and super fast and they're going to get hired, they're going to make tons of money, and they kind of sell you on this dream. And I don't want to say that's not possible. It definitely is. Obviously, I wouldn't be making this video, but I will say the path is a lot harder than most people think. I want to get right into it, and kind of like I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate enough to graduate early, which was a big goal of mine because I wanted to jump right into the field and start looking for a job, and we'll start there. So it took me about 4 months to find a job, and this was through constant, non-stop job applications. The boot camps often tell you what they think you need, and a lot of the times it develops from an outside perspective. It is very easy to tell between a designer who maybe went like the 4-year university path versus a designer who did a boot camp, because the boot camp students almost always look very cookie cutter. They play it very safe and they don't really do much in terms of visual personalization for their portfolio. And for myself, that was probably one of my biggest struggles in the beginning. Is I was actively applying to jobs. I was doing, I think it was 50 applications a week for 4 months straight. I was searching via LinkedIn, AngelList, ZipRecruiter, using job boards. I mean, pretty much any and all resources. Thinkful was really fortunate to assign me with a career coach, but in my experience, the Thinkful career coaches, the amount that they help are very different. I honestly kind of just depends who you get. I'm still in touch with a lot of my classmates or cohort mates from my bootcamp experience, and some of their career coaches pretty much just handed them jobs and segued them into their career by having connections. And whereas someone like myself, my career coach truthfully wasn't all that helpful. I switched 2 times, and I personally feel that the career coaches that I was assigned, all they really did was hey, are you doing 50 applications a week? Do you have interview questions that you can ask me? And mind you, these people, they're not designers, so it's a little bit hard for them, for you to prepare with them, because their experience doesn't necessarily match up with what senior designers are looking for. They just think they're recruiters, and they just think like a recruiter, but they don't think like a designer. And so I felt like that was probably one of the biggest faults in the career coaches, is that they give you people that are coaches but not necessarily professionals in your field. And it can be really difficult because there's a certain level of disconnect, because truthfully, they can only help you so much by giving you oh, hey, here's 10 jobs to apply to, or here's 5 new leads. But pretty much what they do is they will copy and paste all of these leads and send them out to every graduate. So at the end of the day, you're really competing with the 400 other people who have recently graduated like yourself. Well, I should also preface this by saying that my partner is actually a senior designer, and so I was really fortunate in the respect that I had lots of resources to really help me, and someone kind of in my corner to give me direct career advice. One of the most important things that I did that significantly sent me way higher in the brackets in terms of getting callbacks and interviews and taking these next steps was signing up for ADP List. I'm not sponsored by ADP List. No one's hit me up. I've just used it. It's an amazing free resource that allows you to connect to senior designers at large companies. So I had 2 two different mentors. One of them was at Facebook, the other one was at Netflix. This platform is entirely free, which is so awesome and so helpful for emerging designers. And I advocate for anybody who is coming out of a boot camp to sign up for it immediately and do a portfolio review. And these senior designers will help you and give you the advice to update your portfolio and bring it to a whole new standard. And they can tell you directly what people like them are looking for. And so I signed up for ADP List, and it honestly made a huge difference. My favorite mentor was Clara Shim, and she was a designer at Facebook, and she walked through my portfolio with me. And one of the big issues that she pointed out to me was that I was kind of using the slides that I developed in school for my school presentations inside of my case studies. And she told me the best thing that I could do is, I think my slides were about 15 to 20 pages. And so she recommended that I redo all of my case studies and actually create them within my website and condense them to about 5 to maybe 10 pages max, but even then it's pretty extreme. She advised me that a lot of the people who are going to be looking at my applications are going through hundreds a day. And what they really want to know is they want to get to the grit of it as fast as possible and quickly understand who you are, what you did, and what you worked on. Moving forward, after getting that direct advice from Clara, I went through my entire website. I redid the entire user interface, and I redid all of my case studies. I wish I had before and afters, because the difference is drastic. Basically what I did is I decided to finally incorporate my own personal branding and my own personal style to my website, basically updating everything. And honestly, once I did that in conjunction with improving my resume by kind of matching the visual style of your portfolio and your resume, it took it to just a whole nother level. I was doing 50 applications a week and getting callbacks from maybe one in every 20. And once I updated my portfolio and my resume, it totally changed. It went from, that 1 in 20 to 1 in 5. And so since that point, I was consistently getting interviews, which is super exciting. And that kind of increased my trajectory into something new. Yeah, that's probably the first piece of advice that I would give to anybody coming out of a bootcamp is sign up for ADP List and talk directly to these senior designers and the best honest advice that you can get, and apply it, because these people know what they're talking about, and they genuinely want to help. These mentors are extremely accessible, and I 100% advocate for ADP List. The second biggest piece of advice that I have is to actually go through all of your work and redesign it. So going into my going into the job application process, I felt kind of confident about what I had. I knew that I had gotten better since my first project, but I still put it on my website anyways. And honestly, I wish I would have just gone back and redone it at the very beginning. I think one of the most important things as a designer is to revisit your old work and iterate upon it. I think it's always a great idea to take a look at what you had before and update it with everything that you've learned. And it will go so much further in terms of creating validity to yourself as a designer, because people want to know, oh, okay, he put out this project, 4 months ago, but he actually went back and revisited that same project and updated it and made it cleaner and made it better and improved upon something. Because as you all know, good design is never finished. Good design is can always be improved upon, because things are always changing and people are always adapting. And in that same note, you should also be doing the same as a designer. So yeah, I highly recommend go back to your old work and update it, even though I know it may seem like a daunting task. it's 100% worth it. Basically, after doing all of those things, I started going into the final round of interviews with a couple companies, and I started getting design challenges. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm actually going to do, I'm going to show you the exact design challenge that I had and walk you through it. Overall, those are the most important things: is sign up for ADP lists, get a good mentor, and, you know, actively work with them to review your case studies and your portfolio, and just iterate. Make sure that what you're putting out there is a true representation of yourself and the best possible designs that you could do. So moving into the next steps of how I got my first job after bootcamp was, I did all of these things with ADP lists. I updated my resume and portfolio, started sending out my applications, and then I got my first design challenge. And I knew this was, I knew this was like the ultimate test and the last thing I really needed to get on board. With design challenges, what I always try to do is just honestly go above and beyond. You know, if people say spend 2 hours, spend 4. Even though these companies give you a time restriction, if you have the ability to work outside of that, I always advocate for that, because it'll really pay off in the long run. So I basically had a 1-day design challenge to come up with data visualization. The company that I was applying for was a software as a service, and they specialized in they had a dashboard that specialized in like data analytics, and basically the job of the product designer there was to visualize all that data to make it interpretable for people who are more like data inclined and people who are also visually inclined. Basically, I got through my design challenge, which I'll show you guys at the end of the video, and I kind of, I really impressed them. I impressed them with the work that I had done, and it was pretty much a wrap after that. And moving into the last piece of advice that I have is never take the first offer that a company gives you. I think a lot of these like larger tech companies will, to some extent, try to take advantage of the naivete of like an emerging designer, and they'll hit you with like the lowest price possible. And it's at the end of the day, it's a business and they're trying to save money, but you also have to stand up for yourself as a designer 100%, because these companies aren't just going to pay you what you want up front all the time. Not that I'm saying that these companies are bad, it's just that they run a business and they're trying to save money. But you always stand up for yourself. I think one of the most important things as designers is to stand up for the users, but also know your worth when you're stepping into these final conversations with companies and negotiating your salary, because at the end of the day, it's the money that you work for, and you earned it. You earned it by going through the boot camp, and I don't think you should let anybody tell you otherwise. And I think it's very important to know your worth, and don't be afraid. I think it's very easy to be intimidated, but no one's gonna say no. It's a negotiation, really, so no one's ever gonna say no and then decide to not hire you because you ask for more money, unless it's outrageous. Don't make it incredibly outrageous, but be reasonable and be open. Yeah, that's pretty much the story of how I got my first job after boot camp. It was long and strenuous, and one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life up to that point. There are plenty of instances where I felt like giving up, but I wanted to make this video to show people like myself, not only the Latinx designers of the community, but also any bootcamp student who is going through that process and going through a career transition. I know it's hard and I know it's very difficult, but don't give up and be persistent and always iterate. And I want to take the opportunity to help any designer that I can. So anybody who's seeing this video, any bootcamp student or anybody interested in the UX UI field, please reach out to me. You can find my email probably below, or my email is hello@jacobrmro.com. Please reach out anytime. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. And my goal at the end of the day is to show people that it is possible. thank you for watching this video, and I hope all of this has been helpful for you. And yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. So just let me share my screen real fast here. So for my design challenge with Trajectory, they wanted to see how well I could handle data visualization. And so what I did was they wanted me to use just any public record, any public spreadsheet, for example, that had just large amounts of information, and how I could narrow things down and visualize that information. So what I decided to do my design challenge on was this 2021 female salaries in tech. Now, this is managed by Lizzie Carden, and this is open source. It's basically creating a level playing field for women in the industry to see the salaries of one another based on their location, how many years of experience they have, and what their job title is. So the idea is that any woman could take a look at this resource, and let's say, you know, they're doing salary negotiations with their company to see how much money they're going to make, and they could glance at this massive spreadsheet and take a look at you know, the competitive salaries that are out there. And this was perfect for my design challenge, since it's an ongoing list that is, you know, as you can see, pretty extensive. Jumping into my pitch deck for my design challenge, I discussed here kind of what I mentioned, the female salaries in tech spreadsheet, a little contextual photo, and then I discussed how I filtered the data. So for all of the entries in the data pool, I basically condensed everything to focus on the Bay Area specifically, and then I filtered it even further and resized renamed some of the information by role and ranked it from lowest to highest based on their seniority for that level. So here's an example of how I broke down all the information. Taking it another step further, I created this sort of like mishmash between a bar and a bubble graph, using colors to indicate, as you can see based on the key here, using this lighter blue color to show 1 to 5 years of experience, the middle like lavender to do 5 to 10 years, and this like deep blue purple to be 10 plus years. And I basically created a little like chart to help users, or to help them understand, okay, so you could see here a UX UI designer, 1 to 5 years is making anywhere from 80 to like 130K in the industry. For the senior designers with anywhere from 5 onwards to 10 years, they're making about 130 to 180, and so on and so forth. So I made it pretty simple and easy to understand that someone who is more visually inclined and someone who is more data inclined can actually take a look at this and get a quick glance of and understanding of where the salaries are. And I took things a step even further and created a mock dashboard based on their current design. So I looked at their design, and just for fun, I used this like lavender purple because I was kind of feeling it that day. And yeah, I created this sort of mock dashboard to really indicate what my skills are and what I can do and what I can bring to the table. And this was all it took. You know, I put in the time, I put in the hours, and I made sure that everything was branded, and yeah, that was pretty much it. The person I was interviewing with saw what I was able to do and pretty much hired me on the spot.